Why, hello there. Jacob here. And with the Vikings playing on Thursday night football, figure a quick pop in and do a little bit of a preview. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. That is right, Minnesota Vikings fans, after what was a, let's just say less than desirable outcome on Sunday, your Vikings don't really have a lot of time to, I guess, rest on their laurels or, get too forlorn with what could have been because, they literally turned right around and head to Los Angeles, California to take on the LA Chargers. Yeah. Going up against another team that is looking very, very desperate after what was a very hot start, including winning 3 divisional games right out the bat, basically. And since then have fallen on a little bit of hard times with a couple of kind of bad losses, if you really want to think about it, with a lot of injuries starting to pile up on their side of the ball as well. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, yeah, KOC versus Jim Harbaugh. Justin Herbert versus Carson Wentz. And our defense versus their defense. Our offense versus their offense. There's actually a decent amount of mirroring going on here with what both teams want to do and stuff like that. But, yeah. So let's go ahead and actually dive into some of the keys here. So probably, in my opinion, the biggest key, Carson Wentz and KOC. For the love of everything holy, boys, we got to come up with a better game plan, or at the very least, better execution, because holy schnitzel was Sunday just... Again, if you watch my video, you know that I basically harped that even if we could convert 1 or 2 red zone drives, we win that game. Or at the very least, that game would have felt a lot different than how it ended up being. But regardless, at the end of the day, I honestly felt like we could have won that game. Easily. But alas, we didn't. And now we are in a very much fight or flight mode because, again, on Sunday, we were the only team that did not win. Now Detroit's going on a bye. Green Bay travels to Pittsburgh. And Chicago travels to Baltimore. So there's a real possibility that if the Vikings can get a win here, we pull pretty much even with Chicago. So, but again, we'll just kind of wait and see. And, Detroit's on the bye week. But anyway, kind of turning this back around here. KOC, Carson Wentz, Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, who's back, that offensive line. I mean, the Chargers' defense is good, but they're definitely not world beaters. However, though, you also can't take them lightly either. It's one of those things where if you're a Vikings fan, if you're a Vikings coach, whatever you want to say there, your best bet is to attack them. Go up and down the field and don't force things. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, if we can just stick to basic execution, don't make Carson Wentz do more than he has to. Because again, not only did he look not good on Sunday against the Eagles, but he's also probably hurt. Like, probably more than the Vikings want to lead on. Which is less than ideal. Especially because, J.J. McCarthy hopefully will be back, though, when we travel to Detroit a week from Sunday. But again, we'll kind of preview that once we get to that. I don't know. It's just frustrating. It's just annoying. But yeah. So if we can just go ahead and continue to execute our offense, because we have the weapons and we're starting to use them, but we just need to capitalize and finish drives. That's been our biggest problem. Red zone execution. Yeah. It has not been easy. For whatever reason, whoever's at fault, whether it's Carson, whether it's KOC, whatnot, but you have got to execute and punch the ball into the end zone. Field goals aren't going to cut it. So yeah, obviously the big thing there is Carson Wentz, don't do anything stupid. KOC, call a stout offense. Now to flip things over, Brian Flores, unleash the thunder. Because if I remember right, I saw a stat today that I think the Chargers have given up like 21 sacks, which is like tied for 6th most in the league. I mean, Justin Herbert's been getting absolutely harassed back there. However, though, Joe Alt is going to be back Thursday, at least from everything that I've heard. You know, I'm not 100% sure if that's confirmed, but I'm about 90% convinced that he is going to be back Thursday, which is huge for that offensive line. But with that said, though, we still got to get pressure. We still got to keep up with those wide receivers. Because Quentin Johnston is starting to turn into TCU Quentin Johnston and not I have butter all over my hands Quentin Johnston. Keenan Allen always seems to fucking kill us, regardless of what team he's on. I mean, Keenan Allen, so you can't rest on him either. He's still looking pretty good. Granted, the run game is a little bit banged up. We don't have to worry about Omari and Hampton and, we basically don't have to worry about that, Omari and Hampton and Najee Harris. There we go. However, though, Vildor is actually a pretty solid, third-string running back, so, definitely would keep your eyes on him. It's going to be a running back by committee, though, but I probably would guess that Vildor will probably get most of the reps. But we'll wait and see. And then, of course, Ladd McConkey. Sort of this generation's, I guess, Wes Welker, if you want to say. Maybe like a, young, pre-prime Julian Edelman type of guy. I mean, this guy's looking like your, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type of slot receiver. One of those that can absolutely cook you without even trying. So yeah, obviously, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quinshon Judkins are definitely the three, or not Quinshon Judkins, Quentin Johnston. You still have to keep an eye on those three guys. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, at the end of the day, though, with this being a Thursday game, everything is going to be interesting. Everything is going to be unique because both teams still aren't at 100%. Both are coming off of what's been rough stretches over these last few weeks, and both are just hoping that they can get a massive victory going into their following weeks. Because, especially for the Vikings' sake, just, get that momentum there. If we can come out of this 4-3 for when J.J. McCarthy comes back, and as I've stated before, and I'll probably keep making videos about this later, but the second JJ is back and healthy, you run with him. I don't care what happens. I don't care how good, how bad. You gotta ride that roller coaster. Because if he's healthy, he's starting. Problem is, though, health has been an issue as he's played all of 2 games in 2 seasons. Or coming up on about a season and a half. So, not ideal, but again, that's a different topic for a different day. So yeah, Carson Wentz versus Justin Herbert. And yeah, this is just going to be it's going to be an interesting game because, again, both teams are going to be desperate. Both teams are going to be hungry. And both teams can either be Jekyll or Hyde, just depending on who shows up. So, oh man, all I know is Vikings, let's get this done, please, because it gets spooky after this game, too. Because our next two games, if I remember right, are at Detroit, and I believe versus the Ravens, who I believe now have Lamar Jackson either back or he's back to practicing. So, kind of curious to see what his status will be in a few weeks, but yeah. Ain't no rest for the wicked, boys. But just go in there, impose your will, and for the love of God, execute in the red zone. Execution, execution, execution. So yeah, until we meet again, this is Jacob. And also, though, I will say, though, as I mentioned before, I will be working probably towards the tail end of this game, so I don't know if I'll be able to post a post game right away afterwards, or if it'll be Friday morning, this, that, or the other things. So, yeah, kind of stay tuned for that. So, and last but not least, Skol Vikings. Yeah, the season hasn't been easy, but when is it ever easy being a Minnesota sports fan?